Maciej Janik versus Isaak Krut, maybe better known as Duo Final, at least to me, member of the Discord that shall not be named.
What are you talking about? There is no Discord.
There is no Discord, that's right. Actually, both these individuals might be in that Discord.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm obviously not in the Discord. What do I know?
So we do have a game in progress. Isaak is down 19-32, but I see an Oakenold coming out from him, and as we know, Oakenold is kind of a beating, I would say, and that's an 11 on the Oakenold, so this might be a double fused Oakenold.
Yeah, if you were behind previously and then you play an Oakenold, you're often not behind ananymore. That's just the way this card works, especially when it's got the double juice from Bravo.
The double juice, the extra old. It is the oldest Oaken.
Both of these players, Starvo aficionados. They've been in it from the beginning. I believe Maciej punched his ticket with Starvo in the first place. I think the same about Isaak Krut. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but both these players know their way around this mirror match very well.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I definitely respect the Lexi sleeves from Maciej. Yeah, respect, much respect.
A little bit of a ruse there from Duo Final.
So yeah, I guess Maciej is just kind of in the tank here, deciding what he's gonna block with. I mean, Oakenold threatens cards from hand no matter what. Even if it deals, 1 point of damage, unlike Crippling Crush, it does rip 2 cards from hand. They're not discarded, but it still takes them from you.
Yeah, I often say there's no way to win against a fused Oakenold. Something bad is going to happen to you.
I mean,
best case scenario, you have D-Reacts, maybe D-Reacts that are ready in the arsenal, and then you can get away with some stuff sometimes. Still, though, even in that scenario, you might be leaking some damage through, and then you're losing cards from hand.
Yeah. I mean, Tannen and I were talking about it a little bit before. Oakenold has to be one of the most powerful attacks in the entire game right now.
I think so. I think it stands alone as the most powerful attack in the game in my eyes.
Yeah. I don't think there's much argument to be had with that. It's so good. And
especially in conjunction with that Starvo ability that has defined the metagame since the release of Everfest. It's so funny. It overshadows all the other contributions we've seen from Everfest. Like we said, literally every deck has been revolutionized by Everfest, but you forget it sometimes because of the dramatic impact Bravo has had on this metagame.
Yeah, that without a doubt. Anyone who keeps up with Flesh and Blood, Starvo, Bravo, star of the show, he is the star of the show. I mean, it's written on the card.
Earned his name very well.
And so we do Pulse of Eisenloft.
Yeah, D-React from Maciej. It's, okay. You're basically using this to soak up some damage. You're still going to have those harmful on hits. Going to go ahead and present the hand to Isaak. Isaak grabs a couple of options from there.
Yeah. Rips 2 cards straight to the bottom of the deck. I also got to say, man, Crown of Seeds puts in so much work.
You're not kidding.
So much work.
You're not kidding, Red Zone. What a card that has proven itself to be. I think it's one that's going to be with us in the metagame for a very, very long time.
I think so as well.
Follow up Winter's Wail here, looking to push a little bit more damage, is Isaak. We think Isaak has already locked up a Pro Tour top 8. Incredible achievement. But again, cross your T's, dot your I's. Make sure we play to the end here when we're playing Flesh and Blood and Isaak Krut trying to get this W.
Yep, 100%. Never over till it's over. But 11-2 is fairly commanding.
Yeah, of course. Another Canadian, member of the crew alongside D. Rude, who had a top 4 performance at the Calling Indianapolis.
We have, was this a Crown of Seas activation?
I believe that is what we were looking at right now.
Yep. Tunic, tick up. Ooh. Moves up the Starvo for...
Yeah, 2-card fuse there.
Yeah. I was calling this earlier. This is Captain Planet time. Fuse all the elements together for a big ol' Evergreen here.
Yeah, Evergreen going to come through for 9. And that's the way it usually goes with the Starvo. You give Starvo a moment, right? That Oakenold connects. You take your opponent's turn from them, and then you just kind of keep the ball rolling, and you push that damage, and you come in with the hammer, and that's generally who now has control of the game. And that lasts until Maciej can find a way to break serve. Sometimes it's a D-React. Sometimes it's just a flub from Isaak. Maybe there's nothing that he can really do with his turn, and that's what you really hope for so you're able to get back into the game.
Yeah, just pepper in those evergreens and break grounds until you can Oak and Old and Crippling Crush.
Not a bad strategy if you can do it. Winner's Bite going to be the lead here for Maciej.
I love Winner's Bite. I think this card is...
oh, the blue is so good.
Yeah, it just demands a card from hand. And in a matchup like this, I mean, that's what you're looking for here. And if you don't need it for its play effect, you can use it to fuse, you can use it to pitch. Yeah, I love Winner's Bite.
No, it does absolutely everything for these decks. Isaak going to line up a block. Does have the 3 block in the form of Winter's Grasp. Not too many 3 blocks left in Starvo after the banning of Autumn's Touch, but Isaak does have one there.
Winter's Grasp, the icy Autumn's Touch.
This is another play I love here. Pulse of Volthaven going to go ahead and pump up the next elemental attack. Guess what? That includes Winter's Wail. 8 big hammer damage headed the way of Maciej.
Yeah, seen this play a lot this weekend. Just 8 hammer is can be a big game. As a Lexi player myself, always very very sad to see the Pulse played on the hammer, but yeah, it does some work. And
damage seeping through here.
Eight's not nothing. No. Especially when the life totals are this close.
I totally agree with you, especially given how few resources are used here. It's only 2 cards producing that 8 damage. So maintaining an arsenal into the next turn, completely fine turn for Isaak.
Threatens a Frostbite token as well. And every time I see plays like this, I look at Starvo's art, and he's just like,
just having a blast.
He's just
like, hey, Winter's Wail.
Hey, look at this Winter's Wail.
He lives his best life.
He just takes it right on the chin, too. Starvo, I imagine it's both ways, too. Starvo coming in with the Winter's Wail in this position, and Starvo taking it on the chin in the same position.
Yeah, speaking of taking it on the chin, it looks like we're going to do a little fusing here. Pulse of Volthaven combining with Break Ground to meet that 3-element requirement. Pitch 3. Reach for a few more resources. Nope, just Break Ground. That may be 1 floating still.
Yeah, just the...
Oh, we had to deal with the Frostbite. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But, I mean, still Break Ground with Starvo. Dominate. Go again.
Yep.
I mean, it's just so powerful. The ability to turn these otherwise, semi-innocuous cards into incredibly powerful, plays here. Just being able to do something like Break Ground and then follow it up with your hammer is quite strong just in itself.
It's great damage output from low resources, and that's what you're really looking for. You're winning on a very important axis of Flesh and Blood when you're able to produce that consistently, and that's why we see so many Bravos ready to go to the top 8.
Yep, and I mean, it's a reason. There's a very very real reason why so many folks are high on Starvo.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all bluster. It's not all hype. This is a real threat to take down this tournament.
Yeah, 100%. And, every turn, even just the break ground, you have to be mindful of your life total. You have to be mindful of, what are you going to block here? Setting up for your next turn, your own possible Starvo activations.
No, I love that you mentioned that, Red Zone, because damage doesn't matter until it does.
Until it does,
right?
exactly.
And when you have Dominate almost on demand, not quite on demand, but so consistently as Starvo does, that kind of breaks the rules of Flesh and Blood. It should be hard to get Dominate. It should require a lot of resource investment, but Bravo gets it reliably. And that means anytime your life total's in that danger zone, your game could just be over.
Yep. Any Azalea player will know how hard it is to get Dominate for other classes, but Bravo's like, hey, here we go.
Well, I will tell you, Red Zone, if I ever meet an Azalea player, I will ask them.
Yeah, you should also give them a hug because they deserve it.
They do.
And that was a big lightning surge coming in too. Pumped up lightning surge from that Pulse of Volthaven.
Yeah, interesting. You don't usually see lightning surge playing that role in this matchup, but here just pushing a little damage.
Yeah, and we're just evening it back up. I mean, the last game we played, it was also or the last game we saw, it was also just you battle the Titans, just swinging left and right, and we see it here again in this Starvo mirror match, just swinging punches left and right, taking it on the chin. Both players opting not to block or not able to block that much due to the Dominate effects.
Yeah, I think the output is just too good when you ignore what your opponent is doing. And here we see another fusion from Bravo. I don't see a big attack yet. They look like a blue break round, only an Icing counter backing that up, but never mind. Crippling Crush ready to go in the arsenal. And now it's a massive attack. 13 dominate, go again, headed the way of Isaak Krut, also looking to take a couple cards from hand. This is a moment where Isaak really needs that D-React to stem some of the bleeding.
Yeah, this is brutal. Absolutely brutal. Technically lethal.
Look at that praying, is Janik really looking up to the skies saying, please let this Crippling Crush go through.
He's like, come on, I can do it. I can stick in this.
I mean, again, how much is at stake here? Looking to get a berth in the first ever top 8 for Flesh and Blood Pro Tour. It means everything. It's history. It's dollars in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's that unique card. So many things at stake here.
It's basically everything. Yeah, like you said, money, recognition. Like, it's the real deal. And
for all of us who have just lived Flesh and Blood since its inception, who have been there through the trenches in OP, dreaming of this moment, to see it come possibly to a realization off of this Fuse Crippling Crush, you see why you see that outpouring of emotion on Janik's side.
Yeah, and when you're this far, it's just like tensions are high, but you really can't let the pressure get to you. You have to be tempered with your plays. You have to, think everything through, and that's why, these players are taking their times with their block. They want to block, as optimal as possible, the perfect block. Even if it's only with one card, it has to be that perfect card.
Yeah, and it looks like we're finding some equipment that we want to commit to defense here. Isaak pulling forth those Ironhide legs, has Rampart ready to go, going to go ahead, activate that Tunic. That means it's defense reaction time, turn Timber, Fuse.
Yeah.
And a little bit of disappointment there for Maciej. Really wanted to push through that crush effect and just eat Isaac's next turn. Going to have to settle for a small amount of damage. It is backed up by a Frosty 4. That's a big deal.
Yep, good. Yeah, good old Frosty 4. Yeah, Isaak just had the answer this turn. That turn Timber.
Huge moment for a turn Timber, and that's how these games go. Can you rise to the occasion when Bravo puts you to the test? Can you respond to that Crippling Crush, that Spinal Crush, to that multiple turns of Bravo activation, one after another? Do you find your out? That's always the question being asked. Thus far, Isaak able to do so. Yeah,
and we've seen so far these players are able to do it. They're able to, stay in there tit for tat. Coming in with a massive Crippling Crush and just being met with the, the very timely defense reaction. And, that's not by, chance. Like, that's by design.
That's deck construction. That's hours and hours of practice. That's planning. That's knowing the matchups inside and out, all culminating in your performance at this first Pro Tour.
Yeah, I can only imagine how many hours, how many matches these players have played versus, mirror matches versus all of the meta decks. And, to get this far, you have to put in a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And as you said, Frosty Hammer just kind of coming on in.
Yeah, speaking of putting in a lot of work, this is one of the key things in not only this matchup, but really the entire kit of Starvo. Starvo does a little bit of everything. That's why it's been so dominant during its brief but impressive reign here in Flesh and Blood.
Winners Well has put in so much work. If such a statistic existed, I would be willing to bet that Winners Well is one of the most attacked with weapons in Flesh and Blood.
Sounds about right to me.
Oh, very interesting here.
Looks like we're going with expose the elements here. This is a big play from Maciej. This is going to try and go ahead and get rid of a few pieces of equipment from Isaak, possibly eating that Crown of Seeds, which is a huge swing as we head into this late game.
Yeah, this is a very spicy play.
And this card, this is one that has been so polarizing ever since it entered the metagame. Some people love it, some people hate it, but you see how high the ceiling is. Eating Crown of Seeds, I mean, this could happen at any point in the game, but
so rough.
Whenever it happens, it's completely game-changing.
Not only that, but eating Crown of Seeds and effectively neutering that Rampart of the Ram's head with that -1 counter on it.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac's defensive options are severely limited at this moment.
And I'll be completely honest. When I first saw Expose the Elements, I'm like, this is a pretty sweet card, but I was a little bit down on it. But here it might make me a believer. That's a incredibly backbreaking card.
Yeah, and Maciej has had a couple of really good turns in a row. Last turn we saw that big crippling crush. Isaak was up to the task. Now we see an exposed to the elements doing its thing. It doesn't always achieve its goals, but when it does, like I said, that ceiling is sky high. And for the rest of the game, Rampart nor Crown of Seeds going to be available for Isaak to play any defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally like best case scenario.
Absolutely.
Exposed to the elements.
Absolutely. The only thing better is you could have done it earlier, but
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
that's what you're targeting. That's what you're trying to hit, and mission accomplished.
Yeah, the good old classic 2-for-1. And it's like, not just 2-for-1, but it's like you're getting rid of two very reusable cards.
Incredible cards.
Yeah.
Incredible cards that have huge influence over the game.
This
So,
is
so if you're Isaak in this spot, Red Zone, what happens to your game plan? Have you just completely shifted your focus? Are you like, I need to close this now, otherwise this disadvantage is going to build up over time?
100%. Like, it's going to be incredibly hard to play for the long game with these two, pivotal cards, down and out. Your options are so much more limited here.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see Maciej going ahead and committing some of this equipment at this moment.
Yeah.
Wants to seize back tempo, does not want that
100%.
frostbite to come through, wants a full grip, and going to go ahead and try and seize initiative at this moment, not give Isaak the chance to fire back. First step, winner's wail.
Yep, just hammer time again. And Frosty, good old Frosty winner's well. This taxing effect, the frostbite token is going to be incredibly relevant here.
And also think about like how this usually plays out. Winner's Wail has that breakpoint of 4, right? That's annoying. But if you're in a Starvo mirror, yeah, you have your Rampart. You'll be fine. You throw one card in front of it, put a little resource into that Rampart. You probably have something from floating in your resource pool from activating Crown of Seeds anyway. You're completely fine.
Yep.
Not so much anymore. Now this is a very, very real card that's going to demand 2 cards
Exactly.
here.
Yeah. It just not having Crown of Seeds or Rampart means an extra card from hand every single Winter's Well, unless you want to take the damage. Not being able to 3-block and then Crown of Seeds is huge.
I can't say enough about how Maciej has navigated these last few turns of the game. I also want to point out, pretty sure I saw a pummel in hand, and that's going to get real sketchy as this game goes on for Isaak. Defensive options limited, surprise attack from the hand with that pummel could be the thing that ultimately seals a top 8 berth for Maciej.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brian, I do loves me a good pummel. It's one of my favorite cards in the game.
Right
I'll be completely honest.
Right there with you, Red Zone.
Especially when it's coming in on a good old attack action, ripping a card from hand. It's just a great surprise if you're playing it. Nasty surprise if you're against it.
Yeah, so 5 damage headed the way of Maciej right now.
Yeah, looks like we have maybe a little bit of a little discussion with the judges here. Maybe clarifying some things.
Of course, stakes this high, need to make sure everything is done properly.
Yep, yeah.
Good administration of the game, so we'll let them get it all sorted out.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, Isaak has presented blue break ground, just an attack for 5.
Yeah, I mean, fairly tame attack, all things considered. We've been seeing 11+ dominates this game. This is not even a Starvo buffed up break ground, just a regular break ground.
Yeah, and Maciej has a nice little block there, I would say. Heaven's Claws blocking for 3, just going to soak some of that damage.
Yeah, I think you're pretty happy just taking 2 here.
I agree, and that's going to be it for Isaac's turn, and that means now turn back to Maciej with Feyendel Spring Tunic at the ready. Defensive options reduced for Isaak Krut. Not a dominating turn here, just going to be a red break ground. But again, no good defensive options. So if this gets a lot of cards from hand, that's problematic for Isaak. And we know, Red Zone.
Yes.
We know that pummel is lurking. 2 cards in hand, meaning the resources are there for Maciej. Can find a way to go ahead and produce that pummel. That just might be a ticket to the top 8 of this Pro Tour.
This is always the interesting thing here. When you're up against a class that you know plays pummel, they have 2 cards in hand, and they have a card, attacking you. You just have to think. They're like, do they have the pummel? Do I respect the pummel? And I think we respect the pummel.
Yeah, throwing just the entire hand at it. Still going to go ahead and pummel. That means Isaak is going to leak some damage here. I believe, I can't quite make out that undercard. I believe we're blocking for 7 to start. So he tried to block the entire thing. Pummel going to push 4 over the top. Also take that last card from Isaac's hand.
Yeah, this break ground coming in for a total of 11. Pummel giving a good old, nice little tidy +4.
Yep. We're going to go ahead. Pitch has staunch response at the ready. Okay, so Isaak was pretty rolled up there with defensive options, but now Nothing to do on the turn. Can't even arsenal.
Yeah.
So options continue to reduce. As time goes on, options get worse and worse for Isaak, and really feeling the absence of that Rampart, of that Crown of Seas, and Maciej just biding his time, waiting to find that fusion that could go ahead and push through lethal damage, and does have it here.
Yep, here we go. This is a Starvo turn. I believe I called it earlier the Starvo platter. He's got it all.
Yeah.
But
and here comes
on a blue. But I mean, once again, it's still buffed up by Starvo, so dominate, go again. Even though it's a blue evergreen, it's still very threatening.
Yeah, and does have
staunch response.
That potential Winter's Wail followed up. Staunch response is going to eat that, but there's still a Winter's Wail coming through. Going to have to decide how Isaak wants to deal with this. Can he afford to take a Frostbite here?
Yeah.
Does he have to give 2 more cards from hand? You can't give cards forever. At some point, you have to say, I want to mount my own offense.
I mean, yeah, you have to. You have to somehow claw the tempo back. But Isaak is he's on the back foot here for sure. And you know, having his crown destroyed, having his rampart effectively neutralized, this is the results of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like it's going to be just a hammer for Isaak Krut, trying to just get a little damage through. Not a frosty one, just some flat 4 damage here.
Yep, just good old plain Winters.
Maciej is really debating the block here, trying to figure out how much damage can I let through. Is there fear of pummel on Maciej's side? I mean, we don't know deckless, right?
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Always have to be thinking about it. Now, I think in that case, there's only 1 card left in hand from Isaak, so you know you're safe. But for the rest of the game, is that just weighing on Maciej's thoughts on his blocking decisions?
Yeah, I mean, pummel's great. Threat of pummel is also great.
Absolutely. Sometimes the unplayed card is just as dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, you always have to have it in the back of your mind, right? And this is just a casual blue lightning surge. I do believe this was played from the arsenal, so it does have go again.
Yep.
And 2 damage here, once again, that's a decent chunk of his life. At this point, a third of his life.
Yeah, and it connects, and it brings Isaak down to 4. So Isaak trying to say, how little can I commit here? Can I please get some offense in? Now, Crater Fist at the ready with a block 3.
True.
Could be decent. That could be what he needs to turn the tide here, but I see him lining up some smaller blocks. I saw an Evergreen pull to the front. Of course, only blocking 2. Really feeling the absence of that Autumn's Touch in that instance.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can never forget how many just 2 blocks are in most Starvo decks these days.
A lot. There's also a bunch of no blocks as well. So, I mean, defense isn't always their best option.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that with deck construction here. We've seen the Starvos try and take a more aggressive approach. Just going to let a little bit more damage through. Is Isaak falls to 3, and you see why he was looking at this moment to go ahead and let something through, because we have the fusion, we have the dominated Evergreen, and that's a red one. It's going to be coming through for 9, dominate, go again.
These are the turns that Isaak really needs to claw back into this. And yeah, 9 dominate, your opponent's sitting at 7. They do have a card in Arsenal, right? You can never discount that. So dominate versus card in Arsenal, defense reactions are aplenty here.
Yeah, could find.
Maciej also has 3 tunic counters at the ready.
Yeah, lots of good options here for Janik.
And even if that card in Arsenal isn't a defense reaction, we also have Crown of Seeds.
Unlike our opponent, Red Zone.
Yes, yes.
I mean, you haven't seen like the super clear frustration from Isaak about not having that Crown of Seeds, but as a Starvo player, someone who has a lot of games under my belt with Starvo, the thought of playing without Crown of Seeds, it kind of brings a tear to my eye. I can't imagine not having that tool in my arsenal.
You don't often see Crown of Seeds destroyed. It's a very uncommon occurrence.
Sturdy piece of equipment. Does have a nice block here for this Evergreen. It's going to be Turn Timber.
That is a very, very chunky turn timber.
Do we have a
even
fusion
if it's
as well?
not fused, it still represents 6 block.
Yeah, I think we have a fusion as well. Looks like Maciej pulling a card forward. Yep, is going to go ahead and reveal that evergreen. So 8 damage soaked up. Follow up of a Winter's Wail.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I mean, every point of damage here is very, very important. Can Isaak cobble enough tempo here? But I mean, honestly, if you're Maciej here, like you can absorb a little bit of damage here, so you can come back with the turn that you need to close out the game.
Right.
When your opponent's just sitting at 3.
Right. If you have your fusion turn here, you just want to eat the damage. I mean, you can clap back so hard, probably win the game. Now, the fact that we've debated this long, it makes me think that fusion's probably not an option with the few cards remaining.
I think that's a safe assessment.
So you're just trying to figure out how can I present the most damage? How can I threaten Isaak? It's unlikely you can win the game without dominate, I think. I think that's going to be a really critical piece of the puzzle, unless we mentioned there's a lot of 2 blocks. There's a lot of no blocks left in this deck. Should you happen to catch Isaak with a handful of those, maybe that's enough to push through lethal damage. It looks like the damage from this Winter's Wail just going to be taken. And now I question my assessment, because letting that much damage through could be an indication of a fusion or a huge attack. It looks like it's going to be the latter. It's going to be red evergreen. So 7 headed the way of Isaak Krut. I do see a lot of block 2s in hand. I think all block 2s.
Yeah, 7's a little awkward, right? If you have a lot of block 2s in hand, 7 has a really, really nice break point to push a little bit of damage through, or just rip your opponent's entire hand, right?
Yeah. And also, I'll point out, we saw pummel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you think you're safe here. I could be that Maciej only has 1 card in hand, so you might know you're safe. You might not be fearing that. But at some point, that's going to be playing on Isaac's emotion, on Isaac's thoughts. Going to go ahead and commit 3 cards to the block here. Take 1 damage. I'm assuming plan after this is going to be fire back with that Winter's Wail. Again, try and seize some tempo back. That's the name of the game now, and there you go.
Yep,
Frosty 4 headed the way of Maciej. And that represents lethal. So what's the block here? It's got to be 1. How little can you commit and still come back? And also, the thing you have to know, Isaac's face up. This is it. This is what you have to answer. Not going to be an arsenal, so you know exactly what you're facing. You know exactly what you're trying to scope on your next turn. If you have lethal here, you probably know about it.
And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts about Flesh and Blood. Like, at the beginning of the game, you have these massive attacks, coming left and right. And as we whittle things down, as equipment gets destroyed, you really get down to these really, really intricate numbers here, right? Even though we were throwing around massive numbers before, the players' totals are, both 3 or less, and every little tiny incremental advantage really, really matters here.
It was one of the first things that struck me when I found Flesh and Blood was this moment in the game where both heroes have been weakened. Their equipment has been used up. Their decks have actually been cycled through probably at this point. That means your attacks are all weakened because you're loaded up with blues. You push them in the early game. This moment is so interesting to me. It is the exact opposite of the way every other TCG in the world proceeds. You're supposed to get more powerful over time, but this one, it gets desperate, it gets fierce, it gets scrappy, and it plays so well with the thematic resonance of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a boxing match, basically, right? The combatants are going to get exhausted over time, right?
Absolutely.
You see those boxers just kind of throwing their exhausted punch after exhausted punch until the last one is standing, and that's what we have here. Except instead of punches, we have these nice little chili hammers.
Yep. And it's time, says Janik, to go ahead and commit that Feyendel Spring Tunic. Does not think there will be 3 more turns in this game. I agree. It is the moment for a block here.
Yep. I mean, all both players need is just one very nice Starvo activation. That +2 and Dominate, followed up by Winter's Wail, is very, very good.
Yeah, I think I see a turn Timber in Maciej's hand. So a more defensive hand at a moment when you would prefer a little bit more aggression. Going to take the Frostbite here.
Yeah. Take some damage, get the Frostbite. Going down to 1 is always very scary.
3-2 with your Pro Tour life on the line, but it's fusion time, baby, and that means a potentially big attack with a big follow-up for Maciej. It's going to be Break Ground.
What does he have? Break Ground coming in with the 8.
Yeah,
with Dominate and Go again.
Yellow break ground. That means Isaak has to find
That's
a D-Rec,
game.
and he does not have it, and that means Maciej may have just punched his ticket to the top 8 of this Pro Tour. What a fitting finale for our Swiss rounds. A just absolute smash fest between Briar and Chain, trying to punch their ticket to the top 8, and then we saw the matchup that has defined this post-Everfest format.